What is going on, everybody? It's your boy John, and welcome back to Gearbox. So today, obviously coming back at y'all with yet another video. Before I do anything, just want to say I really appreciate the support I got on the last video. If you have not seen it, go check it out. But really, the last video I kind of exposed myself as far as saying, hey, this is how much money it really costs to mod a car like this. Not cheap, but you know what? It's a hobby, and if you love it, here we are. So getting into today's video, what I really want to talk about is basically a list of things you're gonna wanna consider or think about in some way, shape, or form before you jump in to modding your car. I feel like a lot of people, especially on YouTube and just social media in general, you know, you see these people, they do the montage or the clips and everything like that, and it's so simple and easy. But if you haven't modded a car, you probably do not understand kind of some of the speed bumps you might hit along the way, and that's really the best way to put it. So yeah, let's go ahead, jump right into it, and we'll go from there. All right, y'all, so starting off with point number one is going to be having the right amount or right type of tools. I cannot stress this enough, how important this is. Now, just for starters, if you're gonna be modding your car in any way, shape, or form, I would suggest at least a socket set, maybe a drill, and Allen keys. I know this is kind of a hodgepodge of shit right here. This is all my detailing and car stuff. You're also gonna probably want to eventually look at something like an impact wrench, a torque wrench, and even a jack. Let's add a jack into an essential tool you need. It's something where, you know, we buy these car parts and we're ready to put them on, but I have fallen trap to this as well. You get so excited about the install and you forget what it actually takes to install the damn product. So please make sure that you kind of lay out all your hardware, you lay out everything, you have a plan going into it. How are we going to install this step by step? And make sure that you have the appropriate tools before you take shit off of your car, especially if it's your daily or your only car, and then you have to drive to the hardware store, and then it's a pain in the ass. And please learn from me. Please, please, please make sure you have the right tools. Can't stress it enough. Been there, done that, and here we are. So anyway, on to point number two. All right, y'all, so the second point I want to talk about here is the amount of time you think the install will take and the amount of time the install actually takes. It kind of goes into the whole like planning idea, but I promise you, if you think an install will take an hour, it'll take 2. If an install, especially if it's your first time doing it, you think an install is going to take 2 hours, might take 3.5. Plan accordingly. A great example of this was when I installed my Cobb intake as well as the Stage 1 Plus, access port tune. I was like, it's one little pipe, it's an air filter, switch the MAF sensor, plug the shit into the OBD2, and you're cruising. I can't tell you how long that damn install took, but if you go back and look at my older video, you will know. Your boy was drenched in sweat, I was exhausted after it. It's all a learning curve, right? We all have to do something for the first time before we can get good at it. But I promise you, if you're trying to say, all right, yeah, I'm gonna go install something real quick and then we're gonna go to a family gathering or something, just wait. Just wait until you have some chunk of time and add in a buffer in there for shit to go wrong, because I promise you, it will go wrong. It's part of it. It's fine. You're not alone. I bet every single person in the comments down below has had an issue like that. Maybe go ahead and share your experiences in the comments. But point number 2 has got to be the time you think it'll take versus the time it does take. And that's just just how it is. But anyway, on to point number 3. Okay, going on to point number 3, and this is kind of sort of piggybacking off of point number 2, being what you think versus what it actually is. But point number 3 is going to be essentially what you think the part will look like, or how you think the part will affect your ride, or whatever, or sound, versus how it actually impacts your ride quality, your sound quality, your whatever. Basically what I'm saying here is do your research. I, luckily, fingers crossed, knock on wood, whatever, I have not had a huge issue with this because I do a decent amount of research before throwing something on my car. Now, like my front lip, for example. Front lips are going to be fairly self-explanatory. You know, there are a lot of pictures of them. They can't be too crazy wild, but an example of something where doing your research is unbelievably important is air suspension. Now, this is something that I love being on air. Do not get me wrong. But I wish I would have maybe did a little more research on the 3-piece system specifically, mainly around the idea of, you know, when I'm riding just myself in the car and I hit my presets, that's fine. It goes up to where it should be and pressures are all good. But when I load down the car, I end up having to fuck around with pressures and shit like that. And really the only way to fix that issue is to do a 3H conversion. So instead of being a pressure-based system, being turning it into a height-based system. And it's kind of a moot point because I got such a good deal on the 3P that I'd be stupid to pass it up. And just knowing that there is a 3H conversion is something that is easy enough to do. But just make sure you are purchasing what you want. A great example again would be exhaust. You know, there are a lot of clips on YouTube and forums and this, that, and the other, and they do an okay job at showing the audio, but it's nothing like hearing it in person. So if you're worried about going too loud and having too much drone in your car or something, do your research. You can't just base your, oh, well, that sounds okay, off of a fucking 1080p YouTube clip. You just can't. Go into the forums, ask people, engage with the community, and make sure that what you want and what you think that part will do is actually going to be beneficial and in line with what you're looking for. Once again, cannot stress that enough. I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this video, once again, maybe have similar experiences of kind of that oh shit moment when you install it. But nonetheless, do your research, make sure that your expectations are met with reality once that piece is put on your car. On to point number 4. All right, guys, point number 4 is going to be kind of a general theme across this entire conversation we're having, but point number 4 is going to be have a plan. Have a 100% idea of what you want to start off with, what supporting mods you want to do, and ultimately where you want the car to end up. And really, if I were you, I would suggest writing these things down, especially with some of the performance mods that might need supporting mods, i.e. like if you're doing a turbo upgrade or something or messing with the engine, well, maybe you should go ahead and get a air oil separator, for example. But just having an idea of, okay, do I want my car to be a, track monster? Do I want it to be a stancy boy and don't give two shits about performance? Are there any specific applications that you'll be using your car that would, doing a certain aftermarket part, would that hinder you from doing that? Have a really good idea of what you want to do. I feel like a lot of people, and I've definitely fallen trapped to this as well. You see a cool part, you're like, damn, I really want to get my hands on that. I want to do that. I want these side skirts. I want the front lip, or whatever. But you don't really know what you want the car for. An example of a mod that I would like to do, but I'm just not at that point yet because this is my daily driver, is like some sort of bucket seat and steering wheel, aftermarket pieces, right? I would love to do that. I think bucket seats and detachable steering wheels or just OEM Plus type steering wheels are sick, but especially for the bucket seat, I do so many fucking road trips in this car, my ass would hate me if I did bucket seats. So I'm not doing it. Eventually, I would like to buy a truck to be more of my daily driver and let this be kind of my mess around fun car, whether it's on the weekends or drive it to work every once in a while. And I can start going more crazy with it. I can put a half cage in the back. I can do harnesses and bucket seats and detachable steering wheel and crazy engine mods and rebuilding a transmission and stuff like that. But right now, where I've got my car is a perfect daily driver. I've got enough aesthetic mods to make it my own. I've got enough of a power bump that it's not boring. It's a cool car. It sounds good. The exhaust is not too terribly loud, but it's loud enough to hear some crackles and pops and whatnot. So, just know what you're trying to accomplish before you start doing it, right? I know that sounds pretty elementary, but I'm sure more people than you probably think who modify cars in any, whether it's the craziest modded car or whether it's just simple bolt-ons and maybe the Plasti-Dip type people. There are probably the vast majority of people that mod their cars that are really just doing it kind of, I'll do this, I'll do that. Don't do that. Do not do that. Because what you're going to do is completely eliminate reliability of your car and just drivability. It's not going to be fun if you start doing some crazy shit that's really affecting how you can enjoy the car. It is what it is. And that's, I'm a big planner, so I legit write things out. Or when I have an idea, I write it down and I kind of sit on it to see, okay, am I willing to make the sacrifice for this? Or does this affect my daily ability of this car to the point where I won't want to daily it? Like that sort of stuff. And that way, after 3 weeks or so, if I still feel gung-ho about that idea, all right, let's go ahead and do it. But some things, you gotta kind of be mature about it and say, I think I should probably hold off at least for now, and then we'll come back and reassess at a later date. So anyway, guys, that's point number 4. I know I kind of went on a tangent there, but I think if any of these points resonate with you throughout this video, that should probably be number 1, is that if you don't have a plan, what's the saying? Failing to plan is planning to fail, or something like that. It's true. In a lot of pieces of life, even modifying cars, maybe it's a stretch. I don't know. Anyway, point number 4 over. On to the 5th and final point. Okay, on to 5th and final point here of just things to consider while modifying your car, especially if you are new to the game of aftermarket parts. Number 5, not gonna lie, gonna be a little bit of a stretch, but I think it is really, really important to keep in mind. And that is, don't worry about what anyone else has to say about your mods. If you wanna have a shit ton of negative camber in your wheels, fucking do it. If you, I guess to that point, if you want to ride so fucking low that you're getting a new oil pan every 2,000 miles, do it. If you want to have bucket seats and a detachable steering wheel and racing harnesses on a daily driver, even though you will probably die if you get in any sort of semi-significant accident, do it. If you want to have underglow, but people are going to give you shit because it's not 2003 and you think you're into the fucking Fast and Furious, fucking do it. It does not matter. It does not matter. This is my car. I do with my car what I want. Insert your car here. That is your car. You do what you want. Do not let anyone dictate whatever the hell you do. I know all of us have an issue with this. You know, they're like, oh, well, WRXs are rally-inspired cars. Why don't you lift it instead of lower it? Why don't you throw mud flaps on it? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Well, person, I don't fucking care. I don't. Rally cars are cool. Rally drivers are nuts. I appreciate what they do. But guess what? I am not a rally driver. I sell cloud technology. Okay? That's it. And if I want to slam the nuts of my car to the ground because it's on bags, or I want to only have an axle back exhaust and not a full exhaust, or I want to have the stock turbo and, you know, not upgrade it, or I want to have a duckbill and not the STI wing, guess what, people? I can do whatever the fuck I want, and y'all can do whatever the fuck you want. Pretty simple. But unfortunately, in the car community, there seems to be a lot of, I don't know, like, just negative vibes when it comes to that shit. And just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I see a lot of cars where I'm like, you know what, that's kind of questionable. I wouldn't do that. But guess what? Not my car, not my decision to make. If that makes you happy, by all means, do it. So, anyway, guys, that's going to be kind of 5 tips, tricks, whatever, to think about while modifying your car. Yes, I know some of them are physical. Hey, make sure you have a jack. Some of them are more kind of, I don't know, intellectual, I guess. That's probably the wrong word, but I'm not intellectual, so what the fuck do I care? But anyway, I hope that really helps y'all out, especially if you guys have had any similar issues that I mentioned earlier, or maybe some other tips before, you know, to think about before modifying your car. Drop them in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a big fat thumbs up. Go ahead and hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, that whole song and dance there. But once again, guys, really appreciate y'all coming back to Gearbox. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Peace out, and have a wonderful rest of y'all's weekend, and I'll see y'all next week.